So next topic to discuss is about errors. How to deal with errors. So again, I'll just probably make a copy of this function right here, and this was our version 2 of experimentation. Right, so let's continue to work with this program. What if I want to modify this program in such way? So let me get rid of sorting, and instead let user enter an index and print specific element with specific index. So what I mean is actually let's display what we have. This is not a bad idea. Okay, and by the way, let's create a separate function which will display vector elements. Avoid display elements, and here we can provide a vector to be function argument. I'll call it vect, right? And this will be for printing vectors of integers. And here this is what I would like to do inside this function now, right? So I'm moving. You entered, and now it's just generic vector. A vect size, numbers, value in vector, and print the value, right? So I changed the name of the vector here, here, and here to keep it generic. So now, instead of doing everything inside my main function, I can call display elements, which is a function call. Right, so at this stage, I will say display elements and pass numbers to a function. So this syntax is called, this is our function call, right? And in order to be able to call the function, we have to define the function. So this is our function definition. I said void in front of this function, which indicates that the function does not return any values. Right, so this function is simply like a little procedure that does something internally and returns. The function returns automatically at the end of the function body. Right, so it returns like this, but this is not required. I don't have to have a return statement because the function automatically returns at the end of its body. So once the function is defined, right, and I decided that the argument to my function is, this is the data type, vector of integers, and I say that generically you can give me any vector. I call it vect as an argument, and then I just use this vect here, here, whenever I want, and I display all of the elements. Now, of course, also we need to realize one more thing. I call this a function definition, but regardless what's on top of main, what's below main, this is where the program begins. The linker configures the image of executable program in such way that main becomes a public entry point into this program, and this is where it starts, regardless what's placed on top. In fact, if we never make this function call, this function will never execute. Only if we plug in the function call somehow, somewhere where the execution takes place, then we will be calling this function. Right? So let's just build this and make sure that works, that everything works as expected. There are no errors, right? So we're going to run it, and this time I simply say 1, 2, 3, and close input string, and you can see that I've got my output, but this time my output is coming out of this display elements function, which is a separate function now, right? So it's convenient to break the code into separate functions. In the future, break the code into multiple files containing these functions. In the future, we will also most likely be organizing classes of new data types and placing functions under an umbrella of a user-defined data type, which is called a class or structure. And so there are many other ways to reorganize our program. But step number one is to recognize that not all of the code has to be written inside the main function. It's very easy to add other functions to the code and start making calls.